Welcome back, Dota 2 fans. It's the Global Esports Cup, Game Show Global Esports Cup. That is Season 1 LAN Finals. We're in Moscow, DreamHack Moscow / DreamHack Winter. Unfortunately, Winter's on break this segment, so it's Rage, Mike Loris, Gods. We've got your English coverage here. Upper bracket finals, guys. 4CL versus Empire. Two teams with pretty varied play styles here. Empire tends to be stronger in the mid game, but 4CL, often we see them crush the lanes in their game. Anything you're looking forward to in terms of something that one team can exploit from the other's playstyle?
I mean, it is nice, of course, for everyone that the exploitable factor is right in the early game. Like, we get to see right off the bat how the game is most likely going to proceed. We've seen games 4 Clovers get a little bit ahead, then stumble a little bit because they get a little bit too greedy. So I think that's really the thing that they have to fear most. Make sure that they do their standard things in order to get ahead, but then don't go a little bit too far.
I think also respect the fact that Empire are not going to make the same early game mistakes that a team like MVP did. Pycat was going super aggressive, crushing Q in lane. Q had an off day. I don't think we'll see that kind of play out of like a Resolution or just in general like the laning stage from Empire, Funnick, Havos. These players are just a bit more consistent, they're a bit more experienced. You're not going to get free kills against these guys.
Yeah, something that 4CL has really prioritized is their early roam, and it seems like Empire's rotations from the supports, especially Aloha Dance earlier with his Bane, have been able to punish kind of those overextensions. So certainly something we could look for in terms of the early game in this one. Anything you guys are looking at in terms of the most important heroes to come out of that first phase for these sides?
I said it before, it's like Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend has been such a wrecking ball in all these games, especially for the Empire side. 4 Clovers been doing some serious work with that. I feel like in this game, unlike some of the others, the hero pools where the teams feel really, truly comfortable are a little bit more separate than the other ones. Like we've seen Pycat tear it up on the Wind Ranger, and we saw earlier in the tournament, Tinies and stuff like that. And these are heroes that Empire will pick up, but they would prefer to have a separate pool. So more likely than not, we're going to see a vague MVPs type of thing where both teams kind of do their own thing to get into their own comfort zones.
Yeah, I think that's a good point Mike makes, where they will play their own games, whereas Empire will want to pick up maybe some of their more standard picks. The Gyrocopter probably going to be prioritized as well. And for CL, it's much more, the laning heroes. Heroes that can get off to an early start. So they may not care as much about the Shadow Fiend, like they like the Wind Ranger, they run the Night Stalker in the off lane sometimes, they run the Slaughter. It's very kind of more 4CL type picks against Empire type picks that we're going to see. And it's going to be a great clash because of that. And even like looking at Empire versus Vega, there was much more an overlap. I don't think we're going to see that here.
Yeah, definitely so. Resolution, I want to touch upon early on today in his Invoker was absolutely game-wrecking in Game 1. Havos in Game 2 on his Tiny pretty much changed the face of the game as well. What do you feel like 4CL, do they need to deviate from their early strategy with the heavy roam generally centered around Pycat, allow Bambo to do his thing on his own, or do they need to pay more attention to a certain player or a certain lane from Empire?
It's worked for them so far where it's prioritized Pycat more because Bambo has just been on point this tournament and today where he can be left on his own and do just fine. My main worry is if, like, let's say Bambo gets shut down a bit and then for whatever reason Pycat does well but doesn't get the kills and snowball. Like, let's say just Pycat farms but he doesn't snowball and Bambo gets shut down. Then what? Then what's going to happen for 4CL? And that's where I feel Empire, they've really had 4CL's number. I don't think 4CL has not beaten them in the past month. I don't know like when the last time they was. It was a long, long time ago. To me, Empire are just going to be the more composed team coming in and probably, to me, the favorites.
And it's really hard to adapt to what we saw from Empire. Like, they won games because, their mid lane just got nuts out of control really fast, and you could kind of prepare for that, but kind of not. Like, the Havos Tiny, super early rotations, a lot earlier than we usually see from Tinies. So, as scary as Havos is as a player, can you really do that much to prepare? Could you expect a Tiny to leave his lane minute 9 and start killing you all the time? Then could you really do much once the Blink Dagger is up at minute 12? So, I don't know, 4 Clovers, it seems like, respect the players as much as you can, but it seems like these players have been busting out some really, really high play and been doing just a lot more than they usually do. And then, like, how do you prepare for that? It's kind of a mystery.
talking about things external to the game, God's brought up the storyline that it's such that 4CL has pretty much been able to beat every team with relative ease except for Empire, and historically they haven't been able to beat Empire either. On top of that, 4CL, I mean, at least in today, faced kind of the lighter competition in MVP. They played the earliest game of the day, whereas Empire are only one series off of playing. They played a really good series against Vega, and were able to take that 2-0. So you feel like momentum is in anyone's favor going into this?
I think Empire more warmed up. They had it sounds harsh to say, they had a legit opponent in their game who, in game one, really tested them. They had like a very even draft. It was very neck and neck, and it was just the kind of game of Dota where you walk out like, yeah, that was a game of Dota. Mm-hmm. Game two, Empire then found their footing so much that they beat Vega pretty badly. For a team like MVP, they just fell apart and kind of, in a lot of ways, gave 4CL a quick free win because 4CL were playing incredibly well, but they weren't tested. So they also played the first game of the day, which means they've had more time just to like sit back, watch the games, maybe play some pubs. But Empire, it's like more recently they played their game. They're probably feeling hotter right now. Mm-hmm. It's a small thing, but it is something worth noting, I'd say, that they played the tougher opponent.
And also, Pycat did mention yesterday, like, he really, really didn't like that how they would play the first and last. I don't know if that was just because we were on like a 2-hour bus ride, which should have been like 30 minutes, and everyone was really pissed off.
Yeah.
I think they were expecting a long day as well.
Or if it was legitimately Pycat knowing that his team doesn't really do that well, should they play once and then have a 6-hour break or something like that, then play again? And that is like something that only Pycat would know. I guess only the team would know, but it is very possible that the team just doesn't really perform well unless they're really, really warmed up.
In all fairness, they were to some extent shafted in the group stage as well, playing early and late in some of those days. So certainly can be a little bit draining here as we see Saxa on camera.
He's been good, Saska. He's been really one of those under-talked about players, but it's because 4CL, for the most part, have been winning their games so easily when they're not versing Empire.
Right.
You often don't necessarily talk about the supports, but to me, 4CL's strength comes from their support players, EGM and Saxka. The warding from Saxka most of the time is just amazing. Some of the games I casted them during the group stage, I was just like, I can't believe how much their vision they're getting down and how well they're doing with it. And EGM's IO, best in this tournament, I would say.
For sure.
One of the best in the Western scene, or like in the world, like at least top 5. Definitely a hero you want to keep out of his hands, but there's only so many heroes you can ban against 4CL.
And I feel that at some point, Saxka has made a case for his Tusk being first phase ban, even to the point that maybe it's over the IO of EGM. So it feels like one of those heroes have to slip through. And these kind of are the first two teams that I felt both actually play the Tusk very well. You don't see too many other teams pick it up just because it's not really to their strengths. You see more the Spirit Breaker for MVP. Vega, they go more for their Lina support, their Mag Darkseer in that first phase. So it could be an interesting one to see if that ends up slipping through the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think like these are the kind of heroes that you look forward for the early picks, where there's Shadow Fiends left in the pool, the Tusk, and if you're a team who has second pick, you're saying, well, we can't ban out Tusk, IO, Shadow Fiend, Doom. Let's make sure we get a trade. So let's like perhaps give them Doom and then take Tusk plus Gyro or IO plus Tiny.
Yeah.
And if you're first pick, you're like, well, they left Doom in the pool. Do we take Doom or do we take IO? You kind of start second guessing yourselves in some of these ways. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the draft.
It really depends on how much priority these teams place on Doom specifically. You haven't seen him yet today.
Yeah.
Always been first phase banned out, but I feel like between these two teams especially, you're getting to a point where you kind of have to make some respect sacrifices in your bans. You can't just ban out the Doom mostly because he's Doom and he'll wreck you in any given game versus any given opponent. You have to know that, well, the enemy's Tusk is going to wreck us, or the enemy IO is a significant threat. I wouldn't be surprised to see Doom let through, or at least one of those more powerful heroes in exchange for that trade. And also just tangentially, we haven't seen a Winter Wyvern yet today, I don't think, which is really freaking weird.
And
I don't know.
Saxa plays it well. And on that note, we should be hopping into the draft momentarily for this one to get this one underway. Once again, guys, upper bracket finals. It's going to be 4CL versus Empire. 4CL have not lost in 5 series at this point in the tournament, and 6 if you want to count D2CL in between the group stage and the land finals. We're going to hop in. It's going to be the Shadow Fiend and 4 Clovers are going to be the ones to ban the Tusk.
And then IO Doom or something along those lines? I mean, as far as listing heroes that are going to be banned out?
Yeah. 4CL tend to ban the Bane in the first phase, but having taken out already an aggressive support, it feels like you kind of have to ban this Doom.
not ban like top priority heroes and force that a lot of these heroes to be left in the pool.
Yeah.
But because they're dire, they probably don't want to give away a Radiant SF, and they would have been first pick. You don't want to first pick SF if there's like Doom or IO. Well, you could maybe first pick SF over IO, but I don't think against 4CL you want to do that.
Yeah, so perhaps look for some of these defensive supports to come out. It's going to be, wow, Gyrocopter in the first phase for 4CL, and it's definitely some merit to it as you want to deny pick it from Havost. It's one of the most comfortable heroes for him in that safe lane. And they're going to pick up the Darkseer early, so that's 2 cores already revealed for 4CL.
Winter was talking last game a lot about how MVP had the Darkseer, didn't really draft a ton around the Darkseer. Vacuum is such a unique skill. I mean, it's like, I guess, Vacuum and RP. It's 2 skills that do roughly the same thing, but Vacuum definitely a lot easier to pull off for sure. Gyrocopter is like the hero that you want to have with that. Just vacuum him back into a call down. But Empire, this is sliding into their comfort zone. Maybe too early. You can make the argument for it, but I think, I mean, it's
you say comfort zone,
enough.
but like that tiny pick was like the first they've done all tournament.
Yeah.
It's
Did they? Oh no, this is Havost, right.
Yeah, Havost Tiny's been like
Rare.
Yeah, it's been rare, but I think because of how well it did in their last game and because they know 4CL like to play it, they're like, let's just do it again, no problem.
Also with the setup from the Bane, provided from the Bane, they've really been able to, as you mentioned, he got 2 kills at that 8-minute mark and was able to get almost a sub 10-minute Blink Dagger and start doing a lot of work on that. So Bane certainly nice to have in terms of the setup. Bane also decent against the Darkseer if you can get in range for that Nightmare just after the Surge comes off. Viper's going to be banned out from 4 Clovers, and this is a hero that they'd like to run a lot on Migla, so an interesting one for them to take out there. But the Batrider from Bambone has been pretty much a respect ban all tournament thus far.
Yeah, it's surprising because no other teams are playing it, and I also don't feel the hero is in the best place right now, but
Agreed.
Bambo is that X-Factor player that teams just want to seem to ban out. I think the big thing you kind of talked about drafting around the Darkseer, it's not just having like a big team fight around him, but having a strong lane around him, like picking up either a Night Stalker to go with him, which is now banned out, or possibly even something like a Slather. MVP picked up Darkseer Slather. They didn't really ever pair them together though. Undying, like you say, Mike, is another good option. So I think you want to have a good team fight around Darkseer, but you also want to have a good lane around Darkseer where possible.
4 Clovers have been known to run the Slardar as well with the Darkseer, so I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, they love the Bamboo Slardar. It's a classic for them.
Rubik pick going to come out for now. Obviously very good into Bane. Grip is a pretty reliable steal if you're well positioned. So don't mind that pick up there. Isn't the best though in the early laning stage in terms of presence towards the mid lane, in terms of zoning capability, and up against the Bane, he's going to be hard pressed to really. He definitely won't be the support in that dual mid lane, that's for sure.
I mean, you could try to do some cute things, I suppose, but more likely than not, we're not going to be seeing that type of thing here from the 4 Clovers side. Rubik Gyrocopter without any other heroes, it's a pretty solid combo. No guarantee to get kills all the time, depending on who the offlane opposition is going to be. Currently don't know what that's looking like just yet, but Rubik is mostly, I want to say, in direct response to that Bane. We've already seen 2-3 games today where the enemy team grabs a Bane super highly because it's Bane, and then you're just like, okay, well, I'll just grab a Rubik and then return Fiend's Grip on you every single time. And it's been working pretty darn well. I mean, these Rubiks have been getting some pretty long channels on Fiend's Grips, maybe because team's not quite prepared for that, but either way, 4 Clovers have a good little laning duo in the Rubik and the Gyrocopter, and a pretty decent answer to one of the more scarier crowd control effects, especially for a Gyrocopter.
Indeed. Wondering what the resolution hero will be for the mid lane thus far. It doesn't seem like a very good situation for the Invoker here at all. He perhaps can find a pick off on the Rubik, but Quaswex, or the Tornado EMP isn't necessarily amazing as it was versus the Ember Spirit to purge off that Flame Guard. So.
It's still okay, but it's not like, oh, they've got Ember, like it's great. Like I quite like it against Darkseer because of Surge and just burning the mana pool of Darkseer and even Gyro. Until Gyro gets BKB, Gyro struggles a lot as well against the EMP, so. And he's just a hero that likes to run at you with like Phase, SMY, having a Tornado to stop him, as well as a Cold Snap, which is another really useful utility of the Invoker, is pretty handy. So if they want to, probably more like a 4th pick here, okay, they're going to get Queen of Pain instead, so that's we're not going to see the Invoker anymore.
I don't think we've seen Empire do this. We've seen other teams run dual lanes of Bane Tiny and then shove their usual mid laner into the safe lane.
True.
Again, I'm not really sure if that's really what Team Empire are going to be interested in, but it does seem like that's at least something that they can consider. But now we have the Undying pick for 4 Clovers. I mean, it's a sick combo with the Darkseer in lane. Down the line, not as explosively in the team fights necessarily. There's no wombo combo, although it does do it's pretty good work. It seems like they're going to be going for this pressure game. And again, this is what we said earlier. 4 Clovers, they shore up their lanes really hard, really quickly. And Empire, they have strong burst laners, but as far as maintaining control in the lane, Bane does it pretty well. Queen of Pain does it pretty well. Tiny, not as much so.
Yeah. So they're probably looking just for a Pycat last pick for 4CL, which I'm kind of curious to see what it's going to be now. Options somewhat limited. The win range, the big one that comes to mind after his earlier performance today, but Empire still with 1 ban left. And they actually pick up Lina, which is looking like a support this game, so taking a page out of Vega.
Out of Vega's book.
Yeah.
Bane, Lina, certainly no slouch in the lane and as a roaming duo. So definitely some synergy there. Laguna Blade very good versus Gyrocopter early on, who tends to be a little bit lacking in the HP department, but Undying seems like he's going to be effective for, you mentioned how he falls off. None of these heroes want to build BKB very early, so it seems like in these 5-man skirmishes, Undying can do quite a bit of work. He's got low base attack speed on that Tiny. They do have great range on the Queen of Pain and Lina, though, to deal with that Tombstone. Yeah. So Spirit Breaker ban going to come out from 4 Clovers here. This is an interesting one, not something we see Empire run all that often.
What is the Funnick hero here? It's kind of a tough one.
I was trying to decide, like, are we already looking at the Funnick hero? And I don't think we are, right? There's probably not. Like, mostly in these situations, we've just seen, like, Empire just go towards, like, a Beastmaster or something like that.
Yeah, Beastmaster is at least solid.
Yeah.
I mean, Legion Commander, that's a Funnick hero.
No Beastmaster.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Interesting little ban considering 4CL are looking for a mid, but Magnus.
Ooh.
Team fight. I never like Magnus picks that much when there's no one to empower, which is what we're looking at. I mean, you can power Gyro, it's not bad, but you're not getting the cleave benefit. Right. So it's good because Gyro often builds tanky, and then the bit of extra damage does make a difference, but it's not comparable to an Ember, a Jug, or any hero that can benefit from the actual cleave aspect of the empower. But I think it's still a good pick to combo in general with the Darkseer, of course.
Vacuum RP to call down, certainly trying to build themselves a plethora of team fight abilities, but yeah, I would have to agree in that sense. And the Wind Ranger was still in the pool, so felt like that could have been certainly a route that they would go. But
that's a
last pick Sand King for Empire.
Empire used to run a lot of offlane Sand King when they had a different offlaner in Yoku, but we're going to see perhaps Funnick in the offlane Sand King.
I want to say the first time we've seen him in this tournament also.
We're going to send it over to the casters for this first game of the series, Empire versus 4CL.
Hello and welcome to the Game Show Global Esports Cup. We're live with the last game of the day, or last series at the very least. Team Empire versus 4CNL. The last upper bracket game. Winner goes on to the finals. Loser will be bumped down, and we'll have to see how they perform later. But for now, I'm Grandis Feed, joined by Luminous Inverse, and we have a pretty interesting draft on our hands between these two teams. Who do you think has the edge?
All right, so a couple of interesting facts. I'm going to answer your question in a very long about it way. Team Empire has won every heads-up match against 4CL in the past month or so, both in the Dream League as well as the group stage of the Global Esports Cup. So it's looking pretty good for Empire in terms of walking into this best-of-3 series. 4CL, they won their group, but they did not choose Empire for this reason. Like, they just feel like they can't beat Team Empire. So, but you gotta face them sometime. So walking into this match, Magnus has been historically a very weak hero for Team 4CL because they've been putting Nico on, and honestly, he's not the best Magnus player. Sexy Bambo will be playing instead. With all that said and done, I feel like I like the draft of Empire much more. We saw what Funnick could, or sorry, Funnick, Avos was doing with Tiny much earlier today. You got their early 12-minute blink, you walk around and kill everything, and essentially that's what Empire's lineup is designed to do. All of their heroes, every one of them, comes online 10 minutes and on. I mean, sure, some of these heroes need an item or two, maybe like the Sand King with the blink, same thing with Tiny, but they could all fight and run and gun. Whereas if you look at the 4CL lineup, well, you know, Jar wants SMY and BKB, Darkseer wants a mech, Magnus wants a blink. There's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about 4CL's lineup. I think Empire's lineup is good almost from minute one, and definitely very good 10 minutes on. So I like the lineup much more. They got 4CL's number. So I expect them to at least take this game.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Empire seem to be 4CNL's kryptonite, at least whenever we've seen them go head-to-head. But at the same time, 4CNL, I think they have a shot. It's just not nearly as easy as they would like it to be. And Empire, also with the crowd behind him, everybody seems to be incredibly loud for them. They'll throw Havost in the safe lane for the Queen of Pain. Tiny will be going mid, played by Resolution. Offlane Sand King by Funnick. Pretty interesting pick, but I like it a lot. Bane will be handled by Aloha Dance, and Lena by No Fear.
Yep, meanwhile on the 4C outside, Sexy Gambo is playing the Magnus going up top, Pycat joining him with the Gyrocopter. Nico playing that Darkseer, and then we got Saksa playing the Undying. Last but not least, there's that Rubik being handled by EGM, and my man EGM using my Rubik set. I'm really happy to see that stargazing hood.
With a nice mix of items from the International as well as the Frankfurt Mages.
Yep,
so.
yep.
Yeah, I think EGM kind of is like the X factor in this game. If he can get a good steal on maybe a Fiend script, that could be awesome. But right now, Havost is going to get bumped into by Bambo. Shouldn't be any killing potential here. Maybe they can force him to go for Blink level 1, but even that seems to be a bit of a stretch. Aggressive movement coming out from 4CNL, but right now their catch just isn't enough. They have telekinesis from Rubik and potential skewer for the Magnus, but that's about it. You compare that to Empire, pretty much everybody's rocking a stun except for Queen of Pain.
Yeah, even though nothing really happened, that early foray into enemy jungle have gave information to both teams. And it seems like 4CL will dodge the Sand King lane and put the Darkseer, which makes a lot of sense for 4CL, because Darkseer are very good against most melee heroes, Sand King included. Now, if you guys haven't really seen a Sand King off lane, essentially what he does is either level up Sandstorm against most tri-lanes, because with Boots and Sandstorm, you should be able to kind of get away from most bad situations. But against a melee hero, he might actually level up Caustic Finale and just try to dominate the lane that way. But Darkseer, unlike most melee heroes, doesn't need to actually stay in melee to CS. So I'm very curious in terms of what the skill build is for the Sand King and how he would kind of face up against this fairly disadvantaged lane for him.
I think he still might go for the Caustic just to be able to keep the lane semi under control. It's going to be really hard for him.
Maybe one
mid lane, also very difficult as this Magnus Nightmared up. They're going to look for the toss back onto the range creep. I don't think they're going to be able to get this kill, but to put a lot of damage. But similarly, Sax is there, punching Resolution with a little bit of decay help. Sexy Bambo will make his way down towards the south. There is no brain set, but they do have another Nightmare in 2 seconds. Can they get this off? Long range. They are going to connect onto Sexy Bambo, and it looks like that's going to be lethal. Bane should be able to secure this by himself. One shot, and that's going to be first blood for Empire.
Yeah, so I was just about to say that if you go Nightmare first, you're not nearly as scary, but combined with the Tiny, we saw exactly what just happened on the mid lane. So very, very key kill, because a lot of the 4CL early offense will come through this Magnus Blink, and delaying that just by a little bit is it's big.
Even with help, it's such a hard lane for Magnus going up against the Bane Tiny. The only thing that's really stopping them from going for that again is the mana on the Bane. Once they have that, they could very easily go for another play very similar. Right now, they will drop a couple more shots on the Bane, but I suppose we can take a look at our side lanes. Pycat's going to be going up against Havoth. Both of them are going to be sitting with a support. There is a good amount of killing potential if somebody gets a little too over-aggressive, but mid-resolution dropping very low. Lucky enough for him, he is going to have his bottle flying out, so he is going to be able to sustain.
Yeah, meanwhile on the bottom lane in the 1v1, sure, Funnick is going to have the disadvantage matchup, but one of the best strengths about Funnick is that he's an excellent 1v1 player when it comes to the off-lane matchup. So even though he's got the bad matchup, I expect him to do fairly well. And so far, he's actually leading in terms of net worth, or in terms of CS, excuse me. Obviously, as Sand King falls behind levels, he will lose a lane eventually to Nikwa, but Funnick milking the lane however he can right now.
And he is going to go for the second point in Caustic Finale. I think this is kind of mandatory because we're already seeing the double Ion Shell creeps. It's constantly under his tower. And the only way for Funnick to stop that is to go for the more points in Caustic mid lane. Oh, if they find a Nightmare on Bambo, that could be very difficult for him to come back from. Could get scary, but up towards top, what is scary, Hasted Undying, is going to zone out Havost and No Fear. For now, they're not going to put a lot of pressure on Pycat, at least for the time being. This tri-lane is very potent.
Actually, Havost leveling at that Shadow Strike. Normally, you wouldn't do that in a situation, especially in the safe lane, because your level is not going to be as fast as the mid lane. Although it depends, you know, if you're gonna sit here and CS all the time.
I think the reasoning behind it is they found an opportunity to maybe go onto EGM, but it just never happened. And Havost is gonna take so much damage. He's just shot by a couple of flak attacks. The Bane has made his way down to the bottom lane, but unfruitfully so. Now on the swing back into the mid, maybe they can find something on the Bambo, or maybe there's just going to be a dive up towards top. If EGM catches a lift on anybody, there's so much killing potential. Ooh, in mid lane. Loha Dance is going to show himself, but Bambo is going to walk behind his tower. He's going to be just fine, at least for now. Tombstone destroyed up top, going to be a cool 75 gold in the way of Bo. Still not going to make up for the fact that his lane is not going as well as he'd like it to be.
Oh, actually, I'm surprised that Darkseer was forced back to TP the Fountain, or walk the Fountain, and now Funnick essentially got himself farmed for quite a bit. So, in all fairness, I think Funnick's actually winning the lane. And again, in a very disadvantaged matchup, so kudos to him.
Maybe it's not so disadvantaged. Maybe I just underestimated how powerful the Caustic Finale is.
I think Funnick is actually just much stronger of a 1v1 player. That's definitely his strength when he was playing very well Na'Vi. Unfortunately, it looks like he won't be able to take that bouncy rune. I think he's going for a deny. No, he's looking for the south. Nice. No, he's getting the bottle and then now bottling the bounty.
Oh, sweet.
So double heal.
Super efficient, and that'll keep him in lane. Going for that bottle is very useful on sinking. Usually you'll go a bottle on your offlane SKs. It's very useful.
Yeah. With the amount of farm he has, I imagine we're going to see something like a 10-minute blink.
Oh, mid lane. They're going to catch a Nightmare onto Bambo. He's going to get tossed back. He does have a skewer. Do you think he can get out of this? Let's see. No, he's going to go for the straight skewer. They have the avalanche on the return. No, they don't. They actually don't have mana unless they pop the stick. Resolution is going to take a couple of tower shots.
He had regen and stick. He could have done either.
He could have but I'm not sure if he really wanted to. If you don't have the toss and the avalanche there, it's a difficult kill.
They did have brain sap, so I'm surprised they didn't go for it. I thought they had
maybe just respecting TP rotations.
Maybe. All right, top lane, nothing's really happening. Bottom lane, though, again, look at the positioning this lane, right? Funnick's actually just bullying Iniqua, so... Yep, confirmed. Funnick is a hell of a 1v1 player.
As long as he's not taking the Ion Shells, he's completely free in doing so. No, just go for the quick Burrow Strike, mop up that Ion Shell creep, and yeah, he's doing wonderfully, even though he isn't getting a lot of farm in the jungle yet. And there aren't very many stacks, in fact.
He does. I mean, he's not even leveling up Sandstorm, so...
He doesn't need it, right? He's doing so well in the lane, like he's going to get his Blink Dagger very quickly.
So, I would imagine, I wonder what the first turning point of this game is. Probably when Funnick picks up the Blink. And
maybe it's with a Nightmare on the Pycat. He is going to bog that. They go instead for the Undying. Tombstone's going to be dropped on the deck. Lift up on the bows. The damage is pretty high, but he'll be able to blink out. And everything will be fine. A little bit of zombie slow onto no fear. Flacken is going to cancel salve on the bows. A little annoying, but he has bottle charge. Yeah, that was a bit anticlimactic. 6-minute rune. Going to be an illusion for Sexy Bambo. Resolutions around the corner. He'll respect the Tiny, as he should.
Yeah, sadly, Tiny is out farming the Magnus on the mid lane. Of course, Sanking is being out farmed. I keep saying, Sanking is playing really well, but the matchup, if you look at the CS, is just not in Sanking's favor. But the more important thing is that Sanking is getting a lot out of a laning situation where he shouldn't be getting anything out of it.
He's also getting a lot more experience, too, with Darkseer being zoned out. He has like a full level ahead of him.
Yeah, that's the bounty rune and the fact that Darkseer went to base.
Yeah.
So... Again, the fact that this game is really going nowhere when it comes to kills and towers is favoring Empire, because I think Empire is the lineup that once it gets to 10, 12 minutes in, they're the one that's really going to be ramping up the aggression.
They're the first ones to ramp up the aggression. If it goes passive any longer than that, that's where you buy time for the Darkseer to get his neck up and the Blink Dagger up for the Magnus and then the that. Yeah. And then they'll have a leap in power themselves. Bambo, Avalanche is going to open up onto him, toss back. He does have a skewer away and an RP.
You can RP this if you... probably not going to get the kill. Tiny is extremely tanky early on in the game, so...
Yeah, we're seeing the power of Magnus just having that repositioning tool after the Avalanche, or after the toss, excuse me, even though he isn't going to have a great lane matchup against the Tiny. He's still very survivable against it. Also opting for a lot of stats to open up, going for power treads instead of arcanes. And I think that's mostly due to the lane matchup, just making sure you don't get blown up by the Tiny.
I mean, sure, he's not dying, but he's also forced to walk back to base, so ain't great.
Yeah, it's far from perfect.
All right, top lane. I think 4CL expected to get a little bit more out of this.
Looks like Bambo wants to go for a gank. He buys himself a smoke.
Yeah, not sure what that's about. Magnus normally looks to just farm Blink and do nothing except farming towards Blink. I don't think this smoke is really for himself, maybe for his allies, but...
Oh, we'll see. Pycat looks like he wants to find rotation. Nofer is going to walk right into the Jarcopper. Light Striker raised way too late. That's going to be a dead support. Tying up the kill score 1-1 for CL. Maybe they can keep on going mid. This is so difficult. I think they want to just have PyCap farm up during this downtime.
Sand King has a haster in his bottle, so I wonder if he's going to look to set up a kill. He is actually giving him a lot right now by not standing in the bottom lane and essentially finishing his blink. He's actually halfway to his blink dagger timing, so all in all, Funnick.
Let's see if this kill works out. If it works out,
he's got epicenter, so it should.
Oh, let's find out. They don't have a great way to cancel the epicenter channeling either. He's going to bump into dying. That's not the target he wants. He wants PyCat. He's going to open up with the Burrow Strike. Havos is pretty low. Sonic Wave is available. They don't even need it, and Havos is able to blink out of there. Very low. Zombies will be killed. And that was a very successful game coming out from Funnick. Not only is that good for him, probably getting about as much gold as he would just sitting in the bottom lane towards his blink, but killing a PyCat. So very important for 4CL.
Actually, the good old Burrow Strike into epicenter combo will work essentially against every member of 4CL unless it's Rubik lifting and Magnus blow his RP to cancel the epicenter. So
yep.
I imagine Sand King, I mean, it was the last pick for Empire, and we're seeing why. Like, it's such a powerful pick in this game. And the laning situation very helpful for Funnick as well.
Yeah, and even the vacuum, like the RP and the vacuum are very long cooldowns. They're gonna open up. Yeah, Nightmare. They have the follow-up Burrow Strike from Funnick, and this is a Sonic Wave committed onto Bambo. Very easy kill for them. Not even a chance to RP skewer or do anything.
That was a sick play by Funnick. He Burrow Strike through and attacked the range creep in the back, Caustic, and then the Sonic Wave killed it, giving you that little extra burst of damage. I think a lot of players would have just like Burrow Strike and then start right-clicking the Magnus, but he just tiny little plays, really making the big difference in that fight.
Yeah, just really nice awareness. In the meantime, they are going to lose the Lina down in the bottom lane, so although that is a good fight mid, they do get a little bit of something for PyCat elsewhere. But still, I don't think that's going to bother them too much, especially since we're getting to that point where Empire are getting very close to Resolution's Blink Dagger, and, well, everything's starting to line up for them. Although, granted, 4CNL aren't super far behind on the Darkseer. This mechanism is completed.
Yeah, unfortunately for that is you essentially have to mirror the Sand King's movement, and you have to react to his movement, unless you start grouping up and push. But to me, 4CL isn't the lineup that does well while grouping up push. You don't have a Luna, you don't have something like a Shadow Fiend that can Siege Tower very well. So even though you got this mech, unless it's a 5v5 team fight, your mech is really not going to do that much. Whereas the Blink Dagger on Sand King, well, it's great for a gank, it's great for a team fight, it's great for essentially everything. So
yeah,
I still think that Empire is very much so advantage in this game. And if we look over to just raw net worth, we do see a slight lead for Empire. Nothing to really write home about, but it's 2K from CS and kills only.
Yeah, and that's completely reasonable for them. I think the
bottom lane looks like we're going to see a Burrow Strike into LSA epicenter being channeled, and they should be able to get the kill, but no, it's not. It's a mech coming through. They get one reverse kill. Looks like they're going to get a second reverse kill as well. Not only do you save your Darkseer, you prevent the Blink Dagger timing as well. Very, very good amount of counter gank. And Resolution almost dying to neutrals in the jungle, but
he's fine.
He's got
to secure his blink.
That was a key counter gank from 4CL.
It really was, and that's mad mech value coming out from Nico. Without that mechanism, he certainly goes down. And Empire try and commit everything for him, but Darkseer's just too darn tanky at this point in the game.
To be fair, for Empire, they had no clue that there were 3 people hiding there, so it looked like a very, for sure, safe kill.
You don't expect the Sand King, or rather, the Darkseer to have so much backup in that lane against the Sand King. Yeah,
Gyro's literally hiding in the forest, waiting for the Sand King to be ganked, but
you think the Gyro is in the left-hand side of the jungle, just farming it up.
Yeah. All right, looks like we're going to see a first smoke gank coming out from Empire, showing off the new Blink Dagger. Can they burst him down? That's the question. Well, they don't need to burst him down because they got grip, and EGM cannot walk far enough to cancel that grip, and now he actually could die as well. He jukes to the right, but right into a dire vision ward.
Pincered. Here comes another Blinken from Resolution.
Oh, he wanted to toss that.
He doesn't have the Avalanche yet, but now he does. Onto EGM, thrown into the air, healed up a little bit by the Undying. They're keeping EGM alive for a little while longer. The Tombstone getting so many zombies on the deck. No Fear is going to get ripped apart by them. Aloha Dance now with the Rocket Barrage going to make this a 2-for-2. They can find just a little bit of vision, and they will. Gyrocopter ending Bane's killing spree, making that a 2-for-2 if you include the Magnus pickup of 4.
I still think it's a great trade for Team Empire because, you know, Tiny's the one that's getting the bulk of that kill. He doesn't die.
Magnus is so far from getting his Blink Dagger.
Yeah, Magnus's blink is slowed down. So, in terms of the tempo of the game, I think Empire is favored. Magnus on the mid lane gets Burrow Strikes and harass. You know, I feel like this game is just going to get completely out of control in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. And the next tool that Empire are going to add to the mix is that Blink Dagger. Even though, like, of course, the net worth advantage is there for Empire, it's not nearly as impressive as what these items translate into. That advantage is like your Blink on the mostly the Tiny compared to the Magnus, who's again like sitting on 700 gold. Bambo needs to be involved in something and stop dying, and it's very, very difficult to accomplish that. In the meantime, you also have Havost farming up, who's now found himself level 9. As Queen of Pain could also get added in the mix. So much damage from every single member of the side of Team Empire.
Yeah, but something that you touched on earlier is the fact that Empire need to use their early game momentum to actually start doing stuff, you know?
Yeah.
You can't just sit here and farm all day. I guess Havost technically can, and looks like he's farming into Aghanims, which is a fairly strong mid-game item. A lot of people would have preferred things like Orchid against Rubik, against Undying, against the Magnus, but I don't think it's really necessary, because you look to your teammates to provide the disable. You need to play essentially more of the carry role, and I think Aghanims is slightly more helpful in that regard, especially because it lets you tank up.
They're not lacking the disable. What they are maybe lacking is the consistency inside their fights. Well, not from the other heroes, but from the Queen of Pain at the very least. They get a pincer, open up with the Nightmare onto Saxa, vacuum back onto 2. With Beam's Grip going in the way of No Fear, they'll be able to pull him away now straight into the Bane. Again, the Tombstone zombies are pretty darn huge, and they have a sentry. Havost is going to be pulled back in, gets a quick blink out down towards the south, looking for the TP. He's spotted by the zombies, so avoid to cancel it. The damage is there. Double kill for EGM, and 3 heroes hit the deck.
Wow. Well, I did not expect that team fight to win the way it did. Empire definitely had the advantage of initiation if you took a look at their lineup, but Sandking, Tiny, where were you in that fight? They were nowhere near. What wanted to be a easy pick for Empire just translate into 3-man kill, into possibly a tier 1 tower push as well. And if Sexy Bambo gets a last hit on this tower, he is going to get his blink. I do believe Empire wants to take it. All right, here comes the toss. He's going to be fine for now. Nightmare's coming up, but Resolution maybe not so fine as he tanks everything on the front line. He just walks away. TP coming in on the back line. It's Phonic. He misses his Burrow Strike. He gets Epicenter skewered as well, and looks like he is out of mana and bursts it down. Sexy Bambo is going to not get his Blink Dagger, but a good amount of kill. They got the tier 1 tower as well. Pretty good for Force DL.
This is so interesting to watch. If you were just coming into this game and you would have been told that Empire are the ones that are trying to set up these kills and 4CL are the ones that are playing very good reactionary Dota, it feels like the roles are swapped, at least in this matchup. Although 4CL do have heroes that can go on the aggressive, they don't have to when Empire commit that deep, and the Gyrocopter's damage especially is really pulling this through for them. 4CL have put a huge dent in the net worth advantage. But with this momentum swing, especially once they have the Blink Dagger on Bambo, that's really where they're going to start picking things up.
Yeah, I mean, if you basically go back in time for 3 minutes, this game was, I believe, 6-5 in favor of 4CL. After that one chaotic fight in the mid lane, it just really soared ahead. Mid lane, though, Blink Sonic away from Havost, just finds a solo pickoff. Sexy Bambo staying too low in the lane and, well, got punished.
That feels so bad for the Magnus there. He almost had his Blink Dagger and just wanted to stay in lane. That's the reason why he was so greedy there, and then Queen of Pain's going to finish him off. That does hurt quite a lot for 4CL.
Yep. Again, even though that fight looked really bad for Team Empire, you got to keep in mind that did not fight with their initiators, which is, I guess, to the fault of the supports that, I think what they were looking for is a really quick pickoff, like a Nightmare into LSA into Laguna, and Brainstab. That should be enough to kill anybody, but they ran into 5 people, so.
What you gonna do?
Looks like we're gonna have a fairly short pause, or long pause, but some of the core items are coming out. We got Aghanims being worked on by both Resolution and Havost. And both of these will transition extremely nicely as kind of a core / carry position later down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Well, even after a couple of fights don't quite go Empire's way, the Tiny's still very farm, top of the net worth, going to be working towards his Aghanim Scepter. With a double damage rune, that's all you really need to put pressure onto the
casually hitting for
bottom.
400.
It's just tiny things.
I do want to point out the fact that he's on he was on agility shreds when he is attacking tower.
I like it.
Your attack speed matters more. You don't need that extra 8 damage or whatever.
Well, TPing back to the tower. Bambo is here. Here comes the rest of his team.
They don't have RP though.
It's going to be really difficult to actually catch into this. And I think they just casually walk away.
Yeah. I mean, his RP was cooling down for like 2-3 seconds, but that 2-3 seconds matter in that sense. So a little bit unfortunate for 4CL. They did defend their tower, although it was a very, very costly rotation.
Yeah, and after that, Empire just going to casually walk back out to the lanes, get a little bit more farm up. They don't really lose that much. In fact, I'm seeing a lot of free space up towards top, presumably for 4-staff next.
4-staff is decent. You can even make an argument for Veil, because they have a ton of magic damage.
I'd love to see it.
Aghanim's also not bad. Looks like we're going to see might be a little bit of fight on the mid lane.
That was going to fall. Blink away by the Tiny. The Tombstone's on the deck. They'll destroy one of the zombies. Trying to get Aloha Dance. Vacuums back in. Throws the Nightmare looking for the straight TP. And there's no way to cancel it yet. But here comes Bambo. He's going to go for the Blink in Skewer. Catches out Aloha Dance. It's not going to be the quickest of kills. Bane's pretty darn tanky, but they'll be able to get him eventually. Looking for the deny. Not going to happen.
Yeah, so comparing Veil and Aghanims for Sanking, Veil actually allows your ultimate to output more damage compared to the Aghanims. But obviously Aghanims lets you be much tankier. So mid lane, looks like we're going to see a little bit of Avatar's combo. Unfortunately, again, Tiny blinks into 4 heroes. Oh, but Funnick, it was being set up. RP's going to be dropped as well. Really chaotic team fight, but looks like it's going to be Team Radiant that's really winning at 4CNL. Surprising the Tiny that just blinked in. Picks up a triple kill on Sexy Bambo. Well, in the past, you know, Empire has 4CL's number, but in this game, despite the draft advantage that I think Empire had, really that mid-game team fight did not favor Empire at all.
That was such a nice jump in from Bambo, catching an RP onto 2, screwing him back in. It stopped a follow-up to that Blinken Burrow Epi from Funnick, which, although it was a pretty good attempt, they just didn't have the rest of the damage. They didn't get off a Laguna Blade, they didn't get off a Queen of Pain ultimate, and Tiny was so deep already that there was no way that he's getting out to safety. 4CNL are now starting to pick up a good amount of momentum here. You're getting that Blink Dagger on the Magnus, and you have the Blink Dagger on the Darks here. Now it's their turn to start going on the aggressive, but even if they don't go on the aggressive, the power of the Darkseer and Magnus when you're responding to an aggressive move coming out from Empire is strong. As we've seen time and time again, with these Blinks, it's even stronger. Yeah,
4CL definitely has more of a late game advantage in my opinion. Sure, you got Tiny and Quap on the other side, but you got to empower Gyrocopter. I mean, he hits really, really hard. Also, I think something at one point that you don't generally get Caster ever mention is the fact that Rubik is going to max no fuel very, very soon. Maxing no fuel normally not a big deal in other games, but in this game, it's a huge deal against Epicenter, Avatos, Lina, Bane.
Smoke's going to pop. They find him on the sidelines. They have a way to catch up to him. Blink out. Boast is going to be just fine. But also on top of that, even if Tiny gets a lot of farm, Nikwa hasn't given up chase yet. All right, now he's going to give up chase. But yeah, even if the Tiny gets farmed, you have a wall on the other side. You get that Assault Cuirassier going for your team. You get a super strong illusion too.
Yeah. 4CL looking to actually do a little bit of sieging on the bottom, but don't think Empire will look to fight heads up, even though they're fairly good. For now, they're looking to rat a little bit and trying to finish those Ags. Tiny.
Oh, Blink in, RP onto Boast, pulling him back in, out of the call down, but the damage is still there.
All right.
They have to commit a lot for it, but they get the Queen of Pain kill and should be able to get the tier 2 after the fact. But in the meantime,
I feel like they're losing out, though.
Yeah, your tier 2 tower is already fallen up in the top lane. They kind of need to defend here in the mid. Oh, Glyph is going to be popped. Mass TP is coming out from Empire. Resolution has his one, ready to go with a combo, glimmering in the Bane. Loa Dance, not going to find anybody.
Time to run back. Like you said earlier in that last fight, they expend essentially all of their ults, at least the big ones. And they're still really coming in.
Get Bimbo once in. What? Mini Skewer? What was that? Backing back onto 2. They have a decent wall, but Funnick's in with the Epicenter Pro Strike onto 2 on the back lines as well. Split apart. Resolution dropping as he tries to commit onto the Pike at Gyrocopter. He's just going to get shot down. Shockwave, and they're going to be able to kill him off. Even after such a weird start to that fight, 4CNL somehow managed to pull that one through.
Well, Queen of Pain wasn't here. Like
there was no Sonic Wave. Yeah.
If they had a Sonic Wave, they win that fight big time, and now suddenly they're really down a lot of momentum. Maybe Queen of Pain thinking about ambushing on the back line. Unfortunately, there is a war seeing all of him vision-wise. Not sure if this is where you want to go for it. Blink Skewer missing completely here from Sexy Bambo. At least this was a max range one. Oh, Glimmer Cape will protect him a little bit, but Funnick needs to get the hell out of here.
What a mess. Bambo going for some pretty aggressive initiations, but they all kind of work out for him. 17-8 is the kill score when the dust settles, and 4CNL getting a lot of farm. Resolution's Tiny. He has his full Ag, so he has his Blink Dagger. The Axe hasn't been completed, to be fair, inside these fights.
And not completed was a big deal there, because he would have wanted that extra 200 HP, the Ogre Club. would have given, probably would have survived if he had it. And I think, again, like the key thing was Queen of Pain not being there in that fight. Another fight that Empire could have won, but did not won.
Yeah, Resolution seems to be committing like he has that extra bit of survivability inside these engagements, but he's just falling a little too fast. And maybe in the up-and-coming fights, that is going to change. Still, the real story here is the other heroes. Your Magnus and your Darks here have picked up so much farm. Bambo in particular, he has a full Shadow Blade up and running.
Yeah, so Shadow Blade.
Oh, Funnick.
He's
going to Burrow Strike again. He is so dead.
All right, so if you look at Dire Vision real fast, like, he's basically farming on this side of the hill without any vision on the opposing mid-hill and just got picked. Generally, that's the bane of a lot of core players, and Funnick falling prey to that. And now that should be mid T2 if 4CL want to commit for the tower. Looks like they're going to go back and farm instead.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Havos is down the bottom lane. You don't want to give too much space over his way. Eventually, somebody might make their way over. 4CL, maybe they're actually going to go for this. Bambo's still hunting. Oh, he's going to find Resolution, gets the RP skewer back in. Resolution's going to be pulled up. They're going to get him so far away from where he's originally staying, tossed in the air and blown up. That was really fun to watch.
All right, looks like we're going to see Nikwa flying himself a Greaves, I imagine. Yeah, he's going to go for Guardian Greaves, which for this game, I really disagree with the item choice. When you see the Queen of Pain on the other side having Orchids, fine. I think Greaves is very necessary because you don't want to get silenced as you run into your combo. This game, when you're up against so much more magic damage, I think a Hood into a Pipe will be one of the best strategies. Bottom. Yep, nice Euro back. And that should be a pick.
Yeah, that was a really hopeful TP from him, glimmering a vision of Bambo, but to be fair, Bambo did have that Shadow Blade up and running. He'll be able to punish the split push coming out from the Bane. I don't think Guardian Greaves are necessarily bad, but yeah, I really would have liked to see a Pipe. It feels like that's a lot of the damage coming out from Empire. Still, it's more reliable than the mech now, just making sure that you always have mana to be able to use all of your spells. I think the bigger issue for Empire is the fact that Havos just hasn't been very involved in a lot of these fights. Which
I find it odd. You know, he gets involved on a hero like Gyrocopter, who doesn't have Blink. When the hero has Blink, he's farming all day, so. I mean, we are still within the realm of possibility and the timing that Empire could come out swinging with one team fight. You take the Roshan and you're suddenly back in this game, but they kind of have to do something like that, like fairly drastic. You can't really sit here and trade farm for the next 10 minutes and expect to out-carry 4CNL, because you won't. So we'll see if they're going to be looking for that fight, checking on the items on supports. They got one smoke on Aloha Dance, so maybe that's going to be their opening.
Maybe. The Pycat's getting pretty darn big. He still has that 10-second BKB charge. He almost has his SNY completed. 4CNL are known for these jumps. Oh, no. Oh, Burrow Strike. He's going to be just fine. I don't think he knew Bambo was there for sure. It was just farming it up. But they won't be able to catch out this Sand King. 4CNL have been slowed down a little bit, and Tiny does continue to farm. Looks like Resolution going to be heading towards that Black King bar next.
Yeah, I mean, Tiny with BKB is nothing to...
Oh, dance?
He's got TPS.
Okay. He's probably fine.
Yeah. Tiny BKB is kind of like, hey, I'm kind of dying. Let me get a survivability item. It's not an item where he wants to be at. He really wants to be going for AC, something that gives you more attack speed, and ramping up to some damage item like a crit into a Daedalus. BKB is kind of a sign that you're losing, which Empire is, so.
Yeah, or at the very least, they rely almost exclusively on Resolution for their sustained damage inside these fights. He's their top net worth, and he's the top net worth in the game. He needs to be able to live. And that's kind of what the item progression says. Well, for now, everything's kind of slowed as both teams are going to push out these lanes with the smoke up from 4CNL. They want to end the silence. RP onto the illusion!
Bait is so hard.
Well, now Blinken, Havos wants a piece of this action. They are going to Glimmer Cape up EGM and run away with the Shadow Blade also on the Magnus. Burrow Strike is going to be stolen.
Funnick on the back line. He's really deep in there. He does have the Force Staff. He has they want to lure him up the hill. Vacuum hits absolutely nothing. So maybe that's another go time. No Vacuum. No RP. On the back line here, looks like Saxa gets caught out completely. Gets blown the hell up, and I do believe Empire wants to chase. Ava calls back. Burrow Strike coming out from EGM, and the call down from Comedic. Funnick comes in. Two-man Sonic Wave. Two-man Epicenter, whatever that spell is called. They get a big team fight going their way. And remember what I said, they need a big team fight into the Roshan pit. On the back line here, looks like we do have Sexy Bamboo getting a solo pick off I think Empire, if you're in that position, you're fairly happy with how the fight went. You clear out this creep wave and you go straight into the Roshan pit and let your Tiny hit the Rockman.
Oh, we'll have to see if they're going to go for that. They're a little banged up.
They're pretty low, yeah.
Yeah, and Pycat's going to be respawning soon. Still a good engagement for them, even though they do lose a couple on the backlines. Now Sand King, after being involved in that, has his Veil, which does give Empire a new lease on their team fight and the power that we're seeing in that last engagement.
It looked pretty good last fight.
Yeah. The difference in that fight compared to the ones previous is you have a good Sonic Wave there, too. You actually throw in Habos damage. It makes so much inside those fights.
Yeah. Veil, obviously, pretty big deal for himself and for the rest of his team. And that's why I said, man, you want to build that pipe? I mean, even before the Veil comes out, I think the pipe is still good. I don't really know what the Greaves is doing for him, apart from reducing the mana on the mech, which is a big part of it, to be fair, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely not bad, but if there ever was a pipe game, I think it's this one.
This one,
It feels like an undervalued item in general. Well, both teams are going to be setting up around the Roshan pit. Mass sentry coverage down the mid lane, around the river area from both teams. And, well, I think it's just a matter of time until somebody gets picked off. Right now, Aloha Dance is very deep. Don't think he's going to go for any creep cutting plays. Just waiting to see if he's needed elsewhere on the map.
He's going for that TP outplay soon.
Yeah. And there you go. Back to the rest of his team. TP is going to be spotted out. The deep ward from Forest CNL has offered them a lot of vision inside this game. But there's your BKB up for the Tiny. Still doing quite a lot inside these fights. And with Magic Mini now, is so much more difficult for Forest CNL to kill off. Even if they have RP to control him while he has that BKB up, the physical damage from Gyrocopter, although good, probably not good enough when you have that much HP. But
this Tiny need to get back here right now. The fight's about to break out. And Forest CNL going for this might look overzealous, but they got Tombstone on high ground if they want to. And they got the Vacuum onto high ground as well. So
and they also have RP in the pit. This is one of the best places for Forest CNL to take the engagement.
Sexy Bambo surged up, Invis. They got the vision game going their way as well. Maybe not on this particular glyph. And Snowfear drops down an Observer, seeing several heroes rotating by, including Sexy Bambo. And the split push continues by Hovlos.
Gyrocopter is going to TP back to deal with that as they want to find somebody, and maybe Funnick's the one that they're going to catch. They get the Vacuum back, 4-staff away, however, and Funnick is in the clear. But maybe not, no fear, they're going to pull him back with that skewer. He's nightmared up in transit, turning around. Funnick has the epicenter, and there's your Burrow Strike also. Call down onto the deck as Pycat wants to join the fray. Sonic Wave over the top is going to do a good amount of damage to Pycat. BKB's popped on both of the big cores, and it looks like Pycat is the one to win the battle. That's going to be Resolution to fall. Funnick makes it out towards the left, but in the north, Aloha Dance dropping very low. That Soul Rip turns to the Brain Zap. Can you actually get out of here? I don't think so. Shockwave? No, they have the Decay to secure up for the Undying. 1 for 3.
Again, Queen of Pain a little bit late to the fight. Sonic Wave, I think hit only 2 target. The damage output of the Epicenter Burrow Strike plus the Veil was pretty high, but not high enough, especially when Gyrocopter has that BKB. So I don't think Team Empire's got too many more of those fights to give away because they're starting to take structural damage. Their carry heroes are back relatively soon.
Still, if you take a look at top, Funnick's been working away at this tier 3 tower with a little bit of help from the creep wave, so the tower damage is actually going to favor Empire, but still that fight is really good for them. Bambo will go fishing. Not going to find himself the Sand King. He has since TP back.
Yeah, I really like Undying picking up the gem. He's going to hold it, I imagine. He's fairly tanky, or did he get some of this? He gave it to Gyro. So the play here for 4CL is looking to secure map control around Roshan and essentially just take it with Gyro. And once you do take the Aegis on Gyro, they will not lose. They should not lose because how is Empire actually going to kill them twice?
They probably won't, but similarly, you have the Empire gem up that's been purchased by the Sand King. And
they know Roshan is the most important point, so both teams having the same idea. They need to ward and de-ward around the Roshan pit. Should be a very exciting kind of tactical movement around the big boss.
Yeah, both teams are converging down in the bottom lane. They're pretty close to close to each other, excuse me, on the map. No, nobody's going to find an opening. It's really sad to me to see No Fear forced into building a drums. It feels like he just needs that extra bit of HP. Do you think the drums is going to be enough, or is this just as cost efficient as you can go when you're poor?
I mean, drums is HP, right?
Yeah.
Stats and Honestly, in this team fight, I mean, having the drums for Tiny, I think it's a pretty big deal. Increasing
Just
his
having
attack
that attack speed, yeah, it's
movement
pretty
speed.
good. No,
RP, Rift.
Trying to get away. Is gonna be nightmared, but no follow-up. RP on cooldown. That makes it a lot easier for Empire to take the fight.
I think they're looking to smoke up now. Speaking of smoke, there is one on Bane, and there's also one coming back up on their shop momentarily. So the smoke advantage in the favor of Empire, because 4C right now, I don't think they have a smoke on any of the heroes, and the one in their store, they got one in the store, so we'll see. RP is down. Empire should strike now.
It's still going to be a difficult fight. If you could just get the vacuum back into the skewer, 4CL could probably still take it if they're in a situation where it is a full 5v5, but let's find out. Empire going to lead the charge with Resolution smoked up. They have Funnick not too far behind him, and it looks like they're going to get a great pincer. They go down towards the south. They blow up poor Saxa, and the Undying's going to fall. Vacuum back, huge wall, call down onto the deck. BKB pop by Pycat trying to bring down these targets. They are probably going to lose their darts here, but he's already done his job. No Fear is going to fall. There is going to be an epicenter burrow strike onto the back lines, mopping up 2 avalanche thrown, and a little bit more damage from 1 auto attack. Triple kill for Resolution.
They might get more here.
Yeah, he's not gone. Havos needs to blink out, but no, the blink in. They have the burrow strike, and Pycat is going to fall one way or another. Havos even turning around for the very cheeky shot. Black Cat almost killing him. That's going to be huge.
Gem. That's Gem. Remember the gem I talked about Roshan control? Well,
yeah.
Sand King gets his own gem, gets one for free, 2-for-1 special, and now they're going to go into Roshan Pit. Somewhat hard to bring him down. Funnick trying his best to tank. I guess the Veil giving you armor, well, helpful in this particular regard. But they know they need to take it down now because, well, even with Undying coming back, that tombstone on the high ground can get very sketchy. Well, maybe not. Havos down, finishes his Scythe of Vice. We keep asking what was he doing not coming to these team fights? Well, he's been rising.
He's been farming the hacks, and now maybe go for a sure. I don't know. We'll have to see what he feels like he needs. Everybody on the side of Empire.
They're actually dying
low. They're losing the battle against the boss. Don't make him clap. Oh no!
Oh god!
Bash.
Oh god! Oh god! All right,
okay, he's fine. He's fine. We're all good. Aegis is going to be claimed by the Tiny. Oh.
Well, just as quickly as 4CO had advantage, they lose it. They lose it, and I'm gonna chalk up that fight to not having a pipe. I'm just gonna throw that one out there.
The Darkseer died before that engagement, and he did have the hood on his person, so he probably would have died either way.
Well, I guess he could have popped the pipe for his team before. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not.
He was really spread out, so
yeah.
I'm not sure if we can chalk that up to the lack of pipe, but
he definitely got off his wall, right?
Yeah, he got a really nice wall.
Yeah, so who knows? Also, didn't help that Bambo, ulti nothing.
Yeah, I don't think that's your bigger issue, just not having the RP for that engagement. Because if they have an RP on that 4-man wall, it's probably just straight up win fight.
The biggest thing kind of coming out in the last 5 minutes is that Gyro hasn't actually preceded his item. And, moving forward, when Empire's magic damage starts to fall off, but physical damage starting to pick back up, your Gyro is essentially your solo core.
Yeah, he's going to be really wishing he had Butterfly sooner rather than later. But Tiny's almost done with his Assault Cuirass. Now he's going to have both the magic immunity and a lot of armor. Actually, killing off this Tiny is going to prove to be very difficult for them.
Do you go Butterfly, by the way? I'm not sure if you do.
I'm not sure.
Maybe you go just like more stats, like a Scotty.
Either way wouldn't be bad. Up to personal preference. We'll have to see what Pycat settles on. Both the Scotty as well as the Butterfly give you extra agility to add into the damage from Magnus's power, which is maxed out. That's very important inside these fights.
All right, so Pipe gives you 30% spell resistance.
What's the spell resistance of a hero when they're next to the pipe and next to EGM?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
56.
So 10% for... Wait, does it actually say?
Yeah, if you hover over.
All right.
That's pretty darn slick.
So essentially it cuts down all your magic damage by half, and that's not including the activation on the pipe, which blocks 400 magic damage total.
Yeah, I still think Embar can win fights, but a lot of it rests on resolution.
I don't know if they can win fights anymore. I mean, essentially the Veil needs to hit everybody, and your epicenters have to drain the pipe. But
we'll see. We'll see.
Even if that's the case, just treat the rest of the game where Funnick does not have an epicenter. Like, that's how big the two is combined. So.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Oh, Funnick. Pretty deep. Hasn't been detected yet. And maybe he just finds a really great angle here as they look to defend this tier 2 tower.
Now, one thing that we can't forget is, yeah, sure, Epicenter do a lot of damage, but he also could just blink and stun your whole team. Like,
that's the scariest part, I want to say.
Yeah.
Tiny will get the tower destruction, and 4CL aren't going to be put in a situation where they have to expose themselves to Funix Sand King. But the tier 2 already fallen. Empire ready to go for high ground. Still about 2 minutes left in the Age of the Immortal. They'll blink in. Skewer back resolution. He's very deep. Telekinesis up. Hold back. He has the BKB. He has the Aegis.
Okay.
1 to 3. Can they follow this up? RP's going to be canceled by the Hex coming up from Rebost. Sonic Wave over the top. They'll be able to bring him down. They lose the Aegis. Pycat pops his BKB. A lot of damage with the Poly Down Flak Cannon. But is it enough? Tossed in the air. Funnick isn't going to be able to get anything done inside this engagement as he drops the gem onto the deck. Resolution Avalanche Toss. Trying to kill off EGM. The cleave is pretty big, but not big enough. And now Pycat healed up by his team. Resolution also will fall. Double kill for Nikwa.
Nobody dies because you got Pipe and Guardian Greaves and no field.
Soul Rip, yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's no damage. A big part of that was a sick play by EGM. He tossed the Gyrocopter onto the Sand King, thereby canceling the Blink Dagger after Epicenter had been channeled. So he just basically channeled and sat there and hit essentially nobody.
And it puts Pycat in a good position too. It's not like one of those tosses where maybe it's scary for your carry. No, it was great for him.
Yeah, so I said that Gyrocopter was not doing enough damage. I am completely mistaken because he essentially just walked in there and shredded the two apart instantaneously. The quad was forced to blink away.
Quad makes the animation for Sonic Wave, but thinks better of it. Hubba's probably just going to go for the creep cut play.
And that team fight started as well as they could have for Team Empire because they hexed the what's his face, the Magnus before he RP'd.
He wasn't able to get anything off inside that.
And that still wasn't enough. So.
Yeah, Gyrocopter was untouched, and he is going to be going for that butterfly, which he almost has completed. Still, Resolution is out farming your Gyrocopter, but not by a huge margin at all. Most of the lead for the Tiny is tied up inside that Blink Dagger, and the way he's positioning inside these fights, mostly because of 4CNL's great play coming out from Bambo and Nikwa, the Blink Dagger isn't meaning nearly as much as he'd like to. And you can't instantly kill the likes of the Rubik or the Undying. They're just way too tanky when you have Bracer Point
no
Booster Ogre Club. Ooh. Fishing for it. Blink in, vacuum. Nikwa is going to be able to catch him out. Token needs to stop. This is probably just a straight up kill onto Dofir. Drops the Light Strike away on the Zoo Laguna Point on Saxa. And they'll get his Dragon Slave stolen. Nothing you can do is lean in that situation.
EGM would really want that Laguna Blade instead, but you know.
You'll get what you can get.
They have to go back and defend and perhaps finish up the butterfly, start looking for the next Roshan. In terms of the gem property trade-off, you gotta keep a good check. It seems like both teams got their own starting gem. Vision game though, to me favoring the Dire side a little bit as they got quite a bit more vision on the important area, the Roshan area.
Still the lane control is going the way of Empire. It really feels like everything's slowed down a bit as both teams are just kind of waiting out for this next Roshan, which is going to be up in a couple minutes or so.
Yeah. The butterfly being very important against a hero like Tiny. I mean,
yeah, for sure. He doesn't want to build MKB. It's like useless on the hero.
The attack speed isn't the worst.
It's like 15.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have Daedalus.
Daedalus is where you want to be, like you said.
Or even Moonshard. Like just.
Also, the butterfly very good against Hex, as it doesn't remove the evasion anymore. You could, you know, if you're Hex, you could actually still be very tanky.
What do you think of Tiny going for a butterfly of his own? That could be interesting. Looks like he'll just go Moonshard, so that's probably not even worth answering.
I like your way of thinking, because basically what Empire needed to do is essentially output as much physical damage as possible, so Butterfly would be very good for that. And of course, it's dual prone. They also give you some survivability, but the fact that he's going to Moonshard is that Empire is feeling very desperate. They need to pick up as much attack speed as possible. So Moonshard is the biggest attack speed item that you can pick up for a cost.
Yeah.
So that's why he's going for it, but I think in a closer game, he would have went for Butterfly instead. To me, this is a very desperate kind of a YOLO item purchase.
Really good for trading base, and that might just be how Empire win this game if they're able to pull that off.
Yeah, you always want to look towards routes to victory. And I think
that's one of them,
yeah,
for sure.
Going for Moonshard, you talked about the base trade situation. I think just, you know, perhaps blinking to the back line, killing a support like EGM very quickly.
Oh, do they give the bottle to Resolution? I don't think so. No. It's always sad to see a DD go to anything other than a Tiny when he's on your team.
He's capped out. He doesn't actually have a slot for bottom.
I thought they might just give him the DD. If there was a tier 2 tower top, I think they definitely do. But there's no objective to take with it. So they won't give it to him.
Queen of Pain with this build getting DD is actually pretty useless.
She has 164 base damage. It's not bad.
It's more like she doesn't really have the attack speed to...
Yeah, she's not going for like an Assault Cuirass.
And because she doesn't have BKB, she always have to play on the outskirts of the fight. So I'm not sure how many auto attacks she could get off in a fight.
Yeah, who knows? They'll probably just be used for farming, or maybe a little bit of damage onto a tier 2. Probably not. Everything has completely slowed down.
Yeah. Darkslayer, I imagine going for something like a Hex, although Shiva's is not bad either, especially for giving sight to the Magnus, and perhaps even canceling the Blink Dagger of the Sand King. So we'll see what he goes for. I'm personally much bigger fan of something like a Blink Hex.
Yeah, I like the Blink Hex. I think both options are... You can back them up. They're both fine. Oh, Nightmare. There's not going to be any follow-up here except for Bambo. Ooh, he thinks about it. Not going to go for it, though. Glimmer Cave away and 4-step up the high ground. A close call for maybe both teams.
Yep.
Well, we're just going to sit back and farm. It is worth noting that 4CNL do have an Ogre inside the pit, which has been claimed by PyCat. But yeah, both teams are just vying for control over the lanes. And right now, whenever somebody goes out like this and pushes into the top lane, about that deep. Similarly, Empire have a lane that's pushing out in bottom. No real give and take. But now also Dire going to scout a Roshan and kill poor Frostmage as he just sits in the corner.
He's very tanky.
You can disassemble the helm to kill it off, but you know, it doesn't really matter.
That would be an epic deny, you know? Like, fuck
I'd
you.
love to see it. I'd love to see it.
All right, looks like they smoked up trying to do a wraparound, but I do believe the Radiant Ward might have actually saw a little bit of it. We got 4CL. That's some YOLO blink by Sexy Bambo.
Oh, I think they know there's smoke now walking around the corner. This is so tense. Who's going to make the opening? Resolution's on the high ground. You see Saxa, Avalanche Dust, going into the Undying, Sonic Wave, and he's going to be going down before he gets off a single spell.
That's a lot of commitment just for a single Undying, but looks like they're going to
have the refresher on Quap.
Okay. All right, looks like Spell stolen. EGM in a really bad position, fighting on the backline, chanting Epicenter. He just finds everybody! It's a back walk from the Darkslayer, doing so much. Resolution pops his BKB, but he's just dying on the physical side. It's a wombo combo from 4CL.
That was perfect.
You know, the Epicenter was on top of everybody, but look at their HP.
Nobody cares.
Hype Reeves, no fuel. Where you at?
My goodness, that RP vacuum combo, and now they're right on the front door. They have a tiny illusion with Assault Cuirass for 300 base damage to assist in the push. There's no 5x available on Empire. Rip tiny illusion, but they're going to get the range, right ranged and melee barracks both just as easily.
Oh, he still has another Sonic Wave, but again, the no field, well, actually does not apply against Queen of Pain Ultimate, but
everything else.
Yeah, the Greaves still do. You're just so tanky. I'm not sure whether it was the right strategical play for them to blow everything on the Undying and then still wanting to take the fight.
Undying's just not that important for their engagement, really. Like, it's so much more important to get the other heroes, but I think the bigger issue, other than just the commitment, was getting caught out in a situation where you can be everybody inside the vacuum RP. But immediately now, 4CNL in a great spot this game. 2 melee barracks going their favor, 1 in mid, 1 in bottom, and then the range barracks in mid is a little bit of an additional assistance for them. But now, going in the pit, Tombstone.
They can make some plays here. Got the double.
Ghost has a double Sonic Wave.
Yeah, they got double blink as well. Sonic Wave number 1. No refresh just yet. Maybe he's looking to use that Hex. No blink into the Roshan pit. A just gets claimed, and now looks like Aloha Dance trying to TP out, but he'll get picked off. And that should be disengage time. Havos knows he's on the bottom side trying to push out as much as they can.
I was half hoping Havos to go for the refresher Sonic Wave to kill the Roshan. He didn't know. And probably not even the right play. I don't know. I think you kind of want that for the fight because it's coming, and right now 4 Clovers want to go for the end. Tier 2 tower is still standing in the top lane, but do they even care? They can just go for tier 4s, or at the very least the range barracks in bottom if they want to play things a little bit safer. But do they have to? This gyrocopter's stacked.
Yeah, Gyro also got 4K in the bank. Steers back on No Fear. That's going to be yet another pick. Right now, Empire is getting picked apart, and The scoreboard shows as well, 39-19 is the current score. 4CL has not really beat Empire in the best-of-3 series. Well, starting with a win in this Game 1 would really help them out. They're going to go for the win.
Yeah, they know that they don't perform very well against Empire. This is going to feel good for 4CNL. They're going to have so much momentum. Now they have a double RP coming out from Bambo ready. Do they need it for Aloha Dance? He's going to Glimmer trying to run away, but just shot down by the Gyrocopter. Resolutions on the backlines, double Sonic Wave, but what does that actually do? Can they get these kills? Oh, Sonic Wave! Saxa might die. Sexy Bambo has the RP, good with the Resolution. He has a second RP, not enough mana to use it yet, but still Resolution will fall. Not a single hero from 4 Clovers is going to die as GG is called.
Oh, RP.
He ruined it. Saxa ended up dying.
That was a pretty good performance from 4CL, recognizing when their team is strong, when their team is weak. I think it was very unfortunate for Empire. They had their timing down, but in terms of the execution of the early ganks, really did not go their way, and PyCat just got way too big.
Yeah, it really was. And what comes to mind immediately is just those 2 return plays where you get the Gyrocopter involved with that big call down after Empire commit a little too deep. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back out to the desk shortly. And they'll get their thoughts on game number 1 as we move on to game number 2. 4 Clovers have been looking really good lately.
Yeah, they sure have.
Win from 4CL. Guys, we've talked about how PyCat earlier today on the Wind Ranger made it a one-man show with his Wind Ranger beating QO in that mid lane. We've seen Sexy Bambo snowball out of control time and time again, but this really felt like the first very concerted effort from 4CL in this tournament.
It didn't seem like 4 Clovers were really playing. Like you said, they pretty much just usually go off by having one player just perform amazingly and everyone else kind of supporting that one player. And I mean, it was all from PyCat's Wind Ranger earlier, but this one, you could see it in their team fights. Like, they would jump in, RP, like, it doesn't even have to be a huge RP, just like 1-2 people, and everyone piles on, especially PyCat then coming in with the call downs every single time. Like, this was a team fight for Clovers, and that's what we usually don't see.
Yeah, I would not have described 4 Clovers as a disciplined/coordinated team. That's exactly what they looked like here, and that's exactly what's been missing from their gameplay in general, which kind of differentiates them between like the top tier 1 teams. But they really brought it here, game 1 against Empire.
Yeah,
right here they get jumped on, then everyone suddenly swoops in, like literally the entire team, and Empire just like found themselves with nothing.
And they had their lineup wasn't very forgiving. If they ever whiff an RP, they're in trouble. There was that one time where they used an RP on a Queen of Pain illusion, and then they went on to get team wiped. So very much 4CNL, I think, recognized that, and through and through the mid game to the late game, were playing very cautiously because of that.
Yeah, they were able to turn a lot of fights here, some really good positioning overall. Nikwa pretty much seemed to hit a significant vacuum wall in almost every engagement all game long. So yeah, as you mentioned, looking very coordinated as a squad here. And 4CL looking impressive. A lot of us expected Empire to look a little stronger, but it's not as if they played poorly. I mean, Resolution had the top farm all game long. This is one of the earlier engagements where we saw a great epicenter come out from the Sand King, but there's just he had to counter-initiate far too often, and Bambo and Nikwa just facilitated time and time again great engagements for their squad.
And as powerful as Blink In, Burrow Strike, Epicenter is, like right now, Saxa always was there with the Glimmer Cape. Like, I think there was one time when he was stunned because of the burst strike angles that he wasn't available with the Glimmer Cape, but every single other time it went on, I want to say Pycat every single time. And man, if you nullify or if you Glimmer Cape the Gyrocopter, and you pretty much nullify that Sand King's counter initiation. So, I mean, we were talking about how Saxa doesn't necessarily get credit when it's due. Then here's your credit, dude. Those Glimmer Capes are absolutely perfect.
And that's one of the things where Sand King just kind of fell off a lot, I think, is because of how common it is. Not Mech, now Guardian Greaves in every game. Pipe less common, but Glimmer Capes you see 1 or 2 almost every single game, and that's where teams kind of stop picking Sand King and they prefer the Slider, because Slider gives you the spammable stun, like on an 8-second cooldown crash, similar to the Sand King Burrow Strike, but then you've got amp damage as well, so you also mix in the physical damage with that whole lockdown that the Sand King pick provides you. Sand King's lockdown with magic damage, but the magic damage wasn't really enough this game. I think the other big thing is you mentioned how well Resolution did on the Tiny, how it's top net worth all game. Havos, Queen of Pain, not very impressive. I think item selection wasn't really on point. The Ags, like the Hex second item, I think you need a BKB this game, especially when you go into the refresh. I feel like you're not getting that much out of the refresh if you don't have a BKB to be refreshing. So definitely not Havos' best game, but not really a hero who's known for playing.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit curious to see after him snowballing so well on the Tiny in the first series earlier today, then put him on the Queen of Pain. So interesting there as well. Did you feel like there was a last pick in the pool that was available that they could have gone for against what 4CL had rather than picking up that Sand King?
Instead of the Sand King? It was really hard. I remember looking through, like talking about what offlanes were left, and it felt like there weren't that many. So I think it was quite hard to say what would have been the pick. They banned out the Beastmaster themselves. That was the hero you suggested, which I think would have been a better pick than the Sand King, perhaps. Yeah,
I just wasn't really convinced of the Sand King in general. I don't even remember the bans, honestly, which is maybe bad of me.
Yeah, it's hard to say what. Well, that was a long game. That was the most interesting game of the tournament so far.
For sure.
We were touching upon how the Wyvern was still left in the pool pretty much throughout the whole draft. It feels like they could have did maybe Bane, Tiny off lane, had the Queen of Pain in the mid, and then picked up the Wyvern alongside the Lina, and perhaps had the Winter's Curse to counter-initiate against Nikwa's vacuum walls, which were very much accurate all game long. So either way, yeah, it just felt like it's hard to say it was a draft issue just because of how well 4CL executed in that one, but feels like Havos a little bit out of his comfort zone, and the Darkseer pick just nothing to deal with it. Really.
It is worth noting that Resolution played the Tiny this game, and Havos played it last time.
Right.
And they did like a very much a dual lane scenario. So maybe it's just Havos still kind of the new guy, not really fitting in perfectly with what the team would have liked to in a perfect world do with that Tiny. So I think maybe that has something to do with their player swap that also like facilitates the lanes and restricts what they can do with that hero.
Yeah, so early on in the game, Magnus Undying up in that mid lane versus the Tiny Bane. Feels like on paper that's a little bit of a mismatch against 4CL. But yeah, they trade very well in that lane. Magnus seems a little bit too inherently tanky. They tried a couple of times to combo him up, even toss him back towards the tower, and he was just able to skewer away every time. So,
I mean, you gotta do what NLG did. Get the Tusk in there. So, I mean, maybe up against Skewer, it's not as great, but you gotta
not everyone can be NLG, I suppose. Madara and Spartan actually left the team today.
Really?
So, RIP NLG.
Oh, shit, that's not the way I wanted to find it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Game 1 going to be taken by 4CL in pretty convincing fashion altogether there, guys. Got a little time for banter. What's the plan for tonight in Moscow?
You don't make plans in Moscow, man. You don't make plans. The plans come to you. In Russia, plans come to you. You don't go to the plans, you know?
That's where that comes from. I was wondering.
Plan makes you.
Has to be the origin of that. There's no way it could be anything else.
Packed House earlier today. We may see a rematch of Vega Empire, probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but
this is looking to be a good series. Game 1 really close. I kind of thought Empire were going to take this series 2-0, even though they lost Game 1. I'm still feeling good about Empire. Like in general, they're down the game, so odds are somewhat against them. But I think there's a very good chance we go to Game 3.
Yeah, indeed. And would it be the first 3-game series thus far of the tournament? 2-0s up until now. So. We'll see what happens. We can take it to a break for the next little bit, and we'll hop into that Game 2 fairly soon. Fingers crossed.
Oh, we're not going to